How fear of rejection will cripple your composing career. And I can talk about this because it did mine. So a story for a start. I'm a composer now. I've been writing for music libraries for about the last 6 years or so, and I earn my living doing writing music. I started writing music years ago as a child. And in my late teens and early 20s, this is a long time ago, before the internet, I wrote, so where I came from, I started writing what you'd call sort of concert music, I guess. And I wrote out of personal expression, I wrote to communicate something personal of myself to the world, I think, which is what you do as a concert composer. And I had a modicum of success doing that. I had some of my music accepted for some workshops and competitions and things. But I could never really sort of see a future in that for me. So I moved and I did a very, very early Think Space education course. This is back in the early 90s, I think, which came on tape cassettes. And this was, so Think Space education is still going now, amazingly, with Guy Mitchell. It's a great course. I got some good feedback and I started writing music for media, sort of custom music. But as a late 20-year-old, I was deeply insecure, deeply naive, deeply lacking in my own sort of identity. And I think very much my self-esteem and my identity at that time was tied up with my art, I was going to say, but with creating stuff, my musical voice. And I did the Think Space course, and it was okay. And looking back over, I've listened to the music that I did in that sort of in recent years, and it's okay. It's perfectly acceptable. It's okay. And I sent off, because this was pre-internet days, I sent off a CD in the post. God, I probably must have gone to the post office and bought a stamp, and I posted off a CD of my music to a local TV production company. And I heard nothing back. One CD, and I heard nothing back. And it sounds ridiculous now, but not hearing back from that one production company 30 years ago completely broke my heart and broke my self-esteem, and totally and utterly just made me think, okay, well, they haven't got back to me. Obviously, my music is rubbish. I am rubbish. This is a total waste of time. And I had a 20-year career in something completely different after that. Now, it was ball breaking. I didn't have a mental breakdown or anything like that, and I think I was okay in myself, but my self-esteem as a person took a massive hit. My self-esteem as a composer basically disappeared. All because I'd sent out one thing and I hadn't hardened my skin or didn't realise the important message which this video is about. I didn't realise that every single composer, without exception, Hans Zimmer, John Williams, you name it, every single composer from those people right down to me at the bottom here have had to deal with rejection, being told their music isn't what they want, and have picked themselves up and had to continue. And it's par for the course, and I didn't realise that at the time, and I hadn't separated myself, my ego and my self-worth from what I do. And I think it's so vitally, vitally important that you do that. You have to separate your ego. You have to separate your self-worth and your self-value and your self-image from your music, from your art. And that's, for a lot of people, is really, really hard. We are what we create. We put our heart and soul into this. And when you're writing a piece of music, you feel the emotion of it. You have to feel that. That's what makes us musicians and what separates us from artificial intelligence creating music. We feel, we live the emotions of that music as we write it. And of course, it becomes embedded within us. And then, of course, if somebody says, oh, no, I don't actually really like that, or doesn't reply, or says, no, that's not what I wanted at all, that hurts. It hurts. But what you have to do is to separate that from yourself. They're not saying, oh, you're a crap person and, don't want you, etc., etc. They're saying, okay, we haven't quite got it right this time. Or, what you create maybe isn't quite right, a good fit for this particular project, isn't a good fit for me. So that's the first thing, isn't it? I'm looking at my notes down here. That's the first thing, just to tell you that story and say that you have to separate. You really have to separate yourself from your work as you send it out into the world. And also you have to be prepared to face rejection, because we all have it. And, actually getting up, dusting yourself off and dealing with rejection is hard. How do you do that? Well, I think you have to have an inner strength and an inner belief in your ability and an inner belief in what you've created. And so you have to be able to say, okay, well, objectively looking at this, right, I can see that it's not good enough, in which case I'm going to go and improve and I'm going to make it good enough. And that can be a empowering, strengthening decision. Be it you just need to try again, be it you need to learn some new techniques, be it you need to just improve your orchestration, your harmony, or whatever. Also, it takes strength to sit back and say, well, okay, objectively, this might not be right for this project. It might not be a good fit here, but creatively, this is a good piece of music and it is okay. There's nothing wrong with what I'm producing. It's just that I maybe didn't produce the right thing for this particular context. And that might be your fault in that you didn't listen to the brief, or it might be the person that's commissioned the music from you's fault in that they weren't clear, or they've changed their mind, or they're having a bad day. There's 3,000 million possibilities for why they may have rejected your music. And on another day, they might not have done. So coming away from it in a non-emotional, objective, with a non-emotional, objective viewpoint, I think is really helpful, and looking at what actually really went on and separating out yourself. And that takes some separating it away from your own feelings and yourself. And that takes some doing. And it also takes a bit of a change of seeing yourself as a producer of stuff rather than a creator of personal objects. I think certainly in writing music for media, or writing for library music, or a lot of commissioned music for TV or whatever, you're writing, you're creating a product, and the issue is that the product isn't right, and it's not that you aren't right. You might just not be the right fit, but you might be a perfect fit for a different brief, or in a different context. So what can we do? Well, the other thing also I think is what I did was I sent out one thing, sent out one CD, was rejected or didn't get a reply back, and I assumed that was it. You've got to be a bit more thick-skinned than that. No one's going to get a career off sending out one CD. And the reality for a lot of us is that we should, and a lot of us are spending 50% of our time making contacts and making connections and networking, and sending our music out to people, and 50% of our time actually writing music. And of course, if you're networking with that many people, you're going to get people that don't reply, people that aren't interested, people that don't want to talk to you, people that just don't respond, or people that say don't bother me anymore. And you've got to get over that. Got to get over that hurdle. I have a bit of a achy throat, sorry. I heard something recently where somebody was aiming for, rather than aiming for one acceptance a week, one person to commission the music, or one person to even just meet with them to talk about commissioning music, they were aiming for 10 rejections a week. Put in whatever number you want to on those. And that seemed to me a really, really healthy idea. you're going to get far more rejections in that sort of context than you are people that will say, yes, please, you're amazing, let's write music together or create stuff together. So rather than aiming for 10 yeses, maybe you should, be aiming for 150 no's and just see how many yeses you get out of that. So you sort of flip it round and turn it round and turn it round. I hope that was a bit waffly, but I hope that was helpful. It's something that's really, really struck me over the years, and something that if I sussed out 20 years ago, I would have been in a very different position to where I am now. I think if I was in year 26 of my 36 of my composing career rather than year 6, we would be in a very different position. I don't have regrets. It's what happened. I was a very different person there. I was young, naive, and just didn't know anything about how the world worked. I went on to have a great career in another field, to have a family, and things that if I'd really, really got into composing, those things might have changed. I might have moved. Who moved location? Who knows? Who knows? It's just how the cookie crumbles. But separate yourself out from your art, and your self-esteem needs to stay intact. I'm going to get a glass of water. I hope that was helpful. Thank you for watching to the end.